are back with an update after day one at Land Rover, Kentucky, 3-day event 2023, and we're here with Kyle for a recap of the day. Kyle, what did you think?
There was some incredible horses going today. I thought actually the scores were a little bit conservative to begin with for most of the day. And whether that was deserved or not, I think tomorrow the judges are probably going to loosen up a little bit. But we did see some of the best horses go today as well. You had Tammy Smith go in on My Bomb. That was that horse, and Wills are probably the favorites on the flat, I would think. But Tom McEwen went in there. His trot work was unbelievable, so consistent. I thought his canter work was actually going to be even better because that horse does have a very good canter. But got a little tight in the canter. So the trot work was regular, consistent. It's not as flashy as Tammy's horse, but he outscored her on the trot, which I was shocked with, but I didn't think Tammy's horse was as buoyant as it usually is. Like, it usually looks like it's on strings, and today, I mean, look, it was beautiful. It was unbelievable, but I guess we just start to get where we expect it to be even better all the time. Her canter work was lovely, though, as it usually is, and she executes excellent, and it was, I thought she got a fair score at a 24.5, but I had her sort of pegged to be on a 20-21. Tom's on a 22, so they're very close. And there's the one thing is when you look at it, we always look at like 4 penalties. If there's 4 penalties or less between someone, there's a rail. So it can change any which way at this point. So those 2 penalties, it helps Tom, but it might not be the most beneficial, And I thought Will Coleman's test looked like it was going unbelievable in the trot work, but it didn't seem to earn the marks that I expected it to get on off the record. Obviously, Chin Tonic's coming tomorrow. That one is exceptional, but I just felt like he didn't get quite the marks, and maybe some of the transitions could have been a little bit better. His halt was early on the at the one at the judges, and that's going to cost. And at that level, when you're playing with these sorts of marks, it's so hard to give up something and not make it, to make it back. And then his changes were good, but they were not the same change every time. And that always, I think, with judges is hard because you show them one and they maybe like it, and then you show them another one and they don't like it, or vice versa. But if you show them the same thing every time, a lot of times they can digest that a little bit easier, but the consistency is difficult then.
It's really interesting. Honestly, that will help me watch tomorrow because, of course, I watched today, and overall I can see like this looks like it's going well or it's not. But those sorts of insights are helpful to watch tomorrow and start seeing why the scores are coming out the way that they are. But it's interesting you say that the judges were conservative today because there was a lot of talk about how it feels like a disadvantage to be on day one. Is that, as a rider, is it always a little disappointing to be on day one?
I don't know. For me, I always liked getting it out of the way. And I like to go early on the course. I don't want to watch a bunch of people go. I hate having, I like to have my plan, and then I just don't care what other people are doing. I'm interested a little bit on whether it rode long or short, but in the end, it's a bit like last weekend I was at a show at a 4-star, and I was walking up to start, and someone was like, "Oh, don't jump the director out at the water. They're not reading it. My horse stopped, and someone else stopped." And I was like, "Whoa, God, maybe I'm missing something." I hadn't walked the option, so it was a difficult question, but I was like, "What is the option?" And she was like, "Well, you go over to that, we're looking at it." And I was like, "You know what?" I said, "I think that my horse is a good horse. I don't think I need to worry about whether your horse jumped it or not jumped it." And that's, to me, the big part out there. So I'd rather not have the information because sometimes you can get just a little bit too bound up in it. In the dressage, though, to me, there's an opportunity early where if you put in a really consistent test, the judges haven't seen enough to go. So if you have a decent mover, but just nails a really consistent test, they'll sometimes throw you some extra marks, and then they'll pull back from it. That didn't happen today. I didn't see that, but I don't think we had that test. Then on the last day, the thing is it typically ramps up and the scores look better. But you have to also understand, at major competitions, your last set of riders in a team competition are all your potential individual medal winners. And because of that, of course they get better marks. And when we're working on this stuff, we don't, a lot of times people go into these and think the same thing. However, they do need to loosen up in the marks sometimes. The trick is, as long as they're consistent, it doesn't matter. Let's say you wanted a 29 or a 28 and you're on a 31 or whatever, or if you wanted a 19 and you got a 22, God forbid, I don't know how that happens, but never done that. But if you did that and you were, say, got a 24 or 25 instead, but you're in the same range, then that's really what matters. And I think that the judges were fair with that. Like, they did reward some stuff. I didn't feel like maybe there was the stuff today there were some mistakes and the horses weren't maybe as fluid as they could be. And tomorrow there are some better horses, not better than, Tammy's horse and Tom's horse.
Yeah.
But tomorrow they're going to see better horses. The riders also are going to get a better gauge on what those judges want. And that's kind of funny because some days there you go and you have a judge and you're like, it happened a few weeks ago. We were at one and I had a student, I was like, they want consistent today. Don't show them flash, just go with consistency, because I happened to pick up on that. You have to watch something to know that. Now, right now, I'm going to guess the riders are working on that, but they're going to have a hard time stretching to Tom McEwen's trot work, and they're going to have a hard time getting up to Tammy Smith's canter work, although her changes weren't quite as good as they have been. And I think right now it's still almost not anybody's game because some of them are well out of it. But tomorrow there's going to be, I think, 5 more in that area. I think Liz Halliday, who's actually leading the 4-star today, and then Tammy's in second in the 4-star and the 5-star. Come on.
It's pretty good.
Come on. Can you not do better than that? Really? Second?
Yeah.
But so tomorrow they're going to ride in there, and Liz has a real shot with that horse to get down in that number, and then I think that horse can finish the weekend there.
Okay.
It might not be able to contend with Tom's horse, but she's riding unbelievable. And that horse is great. And then Will as well. I think Will's going to go home tonight. I think he's going to be, I can't remember where he is. He's got a good score. But I think he's going to be a little disappointed with that performance with the horse, and it's because he's such a perfectionist. But tomorrow I think it's going to actually help him get a little bit more focused on getting that better mark out of the Chin Tonic horse. And I do think the environment today isn't working against the horses. They don't seem to be, we had some tension in there, but it's not that. It's pretty quiet up there.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Quiet. The weather's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Will's in 8th on a 31.2.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on this list that surprised you or feels like a standout, like they might be especially pleased? Or does it feel like exactly what you would expect?
Well,
this list that I'm looking at.
Yeah, the list you're looking at. I can't operate a phone. So I thought that Will's horse has gone into the low 20s a couple times this spring, and I really expected it to kind of get at least 24 or so. So that was a surprise to me. Sandra's horse did a really consistent test. It lacks maybe some of the real flash, and so the 30 on that one is about 2 points less than I would have expected today. Just because coming into it looked like it was going to be more there. Then the other one is Woods. Woods is a really good rider, and he has a horse that is exceptional on the flat. And I think he was in the top 1 or 2 at Maryland last fall. And so he's on a 30, and that's not normal. That horse and him are capable and expected to get into the low 20s. And when you really, it actually might help Woods this weekend, I think, because I think it's sometimes he's had that, everybody's looking at him because he's in that placing.
I remember this. You said this in the predictions, that sometimes if you're leading going into cross country, you gotta ride for the win, or even in show jumping. But the cross country is when he loses some control with that horse, right?
Yeah, and so I think this is actually I think he probably is disappointed, but I would hope that he sees this as an opportunity to be like, okay, now I can be consistent through the weekend and I'm going to end up with a good placing.
Yeah.
And he will. and it takes away just that little bit of asking for more. And then to me, that allows him to build on it and become possibly a 5-star top 3 horse in the fall. And to me, that's what Woods should focus on, and he's good enough to, and that horse is good enough to. And it's all about the opportunity, and I hope he sees it as that opportunity. And I'm excited to actually watch him in this position more than having him in the top 3, because I do think it does add that whole well, what's wrong with you? You need to get this done.
Yeah.
Now he can focus on his own quality and everything like that, and he has it, all the tools there. Yeah, I mean, I think Elena Dubowski got, you can pronounce the last name easier than her first name, but I think that one got about where it should be. I kind of wondered coming over here whether she'd have that just one little bit more edge, but she's on a 30. That's, I think about right.
Sounds like there's a lot of people right there in the 30.
Yeah, if you're on a 30, you're still contending. Will Foddery's horse does struggle a little bit on the flat, but he got a 35, which is about, I think, expected in the in that vicinity.
Okay.
Philip ended up getting a 31, and that horse can be difficult, but it is fully capable of being in the mid-20s or low 20s. It doesn't get there, but he should be probably high 20s. And so he's probably off where he'd like to be, I'd say. Everybody's probably off where they'd like to be except Tom McEwen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Liz Halliday Sharp on the horse she rode in there today, she got a 29. And that horse is good on the flat, but I think Liz is actually better on the flat than the horse is. He had a couple of little things that gave up. Fortunately, I didn't have to watch dressage all day, but he had a couple little bobbles that gave up a few marks. I think there were the changes, but she's in a good number for her with him to carry the weekend on, and I think it gives her again that opportunity of jumping into. To jumping into a better placing on her next horse.
Yeah.
So then Lauren Nichols is just gonna walk in front of the camera. Go on, no, you're welcome. Just impossible. These people, they're untrainable. So I think tomorrow we're gonna see some better competition with the dressage than today in a few more numbers. But really, in the end, it doesn't matter. It's all going to come down to, can you do 3 days of it,
Totally.
Who wants to win the first day?
It'd be interesting, it wouldn't feel that bad,
No.
but it would be interesting to look up the stats of how often are people able to carry a lead at the beginning to a lead at the end.
Well, there's actually on Equa Ratings, they have all of that. But
I wish someone would do that.
At this competition, I know Kim Severson's done it a couple of times. Michael Young definitely held a couple. But typically, Michael Young would move, not here, but he would move up a placing in dressage from second to first, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, then mock everybody as he went down and picked up another ribbon. So it is actually quite interesting, but a lot of times the leaders at these can actually hang on to that,
Yeah.
It's that little stuff that knocks you out typically. It's not usually this big disaster. A couple of years ago, I think Tammy was leading, had a frangible on cross country in some time. But that's the thing, is when it's real tight like that, a time penalty or two can just knock you right out of it.
Yeah. There's a lot that can happen still.
Yeah, and then if you're watching, and do watch, that 4-star course is like a miniature 5-star. It is so tough out there, and I think that's going to be I think the 5-star, when you look at that group, they legitimately should be here. Some they're going to struggle a little bit, but they should be here. The 4-star group, there's a few that probably should have waited a year to come into it, but we're not.
This is our friend Tommy.
So it is kind of it's important to get them in here in the environment, but it's probably not necessarily the best idea to show up when they're a year before ready.
That makes sense. I haven't walked the 4-star course yet, but I'll get a look at it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm Kyle, for anyone who is here, if you haven't heard, Kyle will be doing a course walk at 4:30. We'll get as much of that as we can on social as well, but definitely come if you can, and I'm sure we'll see some of the 4-star questions while we're out there.
Yeah, and so we've got we're going to do that, and Dickie Waygood, the team manager from Great Britain, is going to come out and do that, and then we convinced Buck Davidson to come out, who did it with us last year, and it's just fun to have. I mean, it's just great because it's not just that you get to see some jumps, but the interaction amongst the riders and trainers and stuff is kind of fun to document. So I'm excited about it. And I'd love to be able to actually go out and maybe do a couple videos from different places on the 4-star course. So
let's
maybe
do
we
it.
could hook that up.
Say the word. We've got the camera, we've got the mics. So more coming at you guys the rest of the weekend. Kyle will be here morning, noon, and night, basically giving us recaps, which will be great. So stay tuned. Definitely tune into the live stream if you're not here. Kyle, thanks for doing it.
No problem. And if you're in Kentucky right now, in Lexington, and you see this going on, walk in front of the camera.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. We enjoy it.
Honestly, it is pretty fun.
It
But
is
we would
kind of
love to
fun,
see
yeah.
you guys if you're here.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching.
Thanks for
Kyle.
joining us.